Hey everybody, this is Craig Cottle with a first. This is the first time I have ever done a video in my own house, I believe. I think so. So what we have here is the blood of my vanquished foes, and we're going to see how these absorbent materials stack up against it. Hey, so let's cover some of the fundamentals first. I'm not a first aid teacher, but I can talk about some of these fundamentals. In a bleeding wound, one of the first things we want to do is put pressure on it so that we can stop the bleed. That's the whole campaign that's getting real popular, and things like tourniquets stop very serious wounds. Israeli bandage can stop the bleed on a serious wound, and we can also utilize a hemostatic agent like what we find in Clot to stop the bleed. That's not what we're looking at today at all. All we're looking at today is how much these materials absorb this liquid. Actually, this liquid is just water with red food coloring in it for dynamics, so that's what we're going to be looking at and see how much they soak up. So obviously this is going to not be scientific, but we're going to be as close to accurate as we possibly can. What we have is 6 ounces of water in each one of these cups. We're going to use each of those individually to put it into the gauze or bandage or whatever it is that we have, or if it's small, we're going to take that bandage and put it down into the cup. So the first one is the Israeli bandage, which I can't put down in the cup, so I'm going to simply pour this onto the bandage itself. You can see this is soaking up. Keep in mind, an Israeli bandage is also going to put pressure on the wound and stop the bleed, in addition to soaking up the material. So we're going to get all 6 ounces in this Israeli bandage, and we're going to have room to spare. As you can see, it's pretty full and it's not dripping out. Next up is Clot. This is a 3.5 by 3.5. And again, this is also has a clotting agent in it as well. So it's not going to work very well for what it is this purpose is, because it's designed to literally stop the bleed. So it's not designed to necessarily soak material up, but it does soak some stuff up, and the agent that's inside that baggie would literally stop bleeding from happening in a wound. All right, so next up is standard rolled gauze that you can buy at any discount store or first aid supply store. We're gonna put it into our cup and let it soak up as much as it can. Let it drip out, so you can see that we have nearly all 6 ounces, but not quite. All right, next up is a surgical dressing. This one is 5 by 9, and again, I'll have a chart that shows all the sizes of what we have here. And again, real close to the same as the rolled gauze. Just a couple ounces left. Next up is a standard 4x4 gauze. These are super thin. Ooh, have some more room left there. Still has some room left. All right, so what we have next is just a basic regular Maxi Pad. See how much it absorbs. So some left over for sure. Last but not least, we have a regular tampon that a lot of people think is a good choice to plug a bullet hole wound. Completely soaked up. As you can see, it soaked up very little of this liquid. So let me summarize what I think we should learn from this. First off, putting pressure on a wound is a necessity. That's just basic first aid. We've got to put pressure on a bleeding wound so we can stop the bleed. Several ways to do that. Obviously, on a large wound, you need to get good training. Use a tourniquet for that. Israeli bandage is going to do a couple of things for us. It's going to put pressure on the wound to stop the bleeding, as well as it's going to soak up some of the blood. You can also get some of these Israeli bandages such that they have a hemostatic agent in them as well, so that you've got pressure, you've got a hemostatic agent, and you've got something that soaks up blood. Now, what we've also learned is this, and this is what I believe we should have learned about feminine hygiene products as first aid. Yes, a Maxi Pad is going to soak up a lot of blood, but it absolutely puts zero pressure on the wound. And a tampon soaks up very little blood. Matter of fact, it soaked up less blood than the Quick Clot, which is not designed to soak up blood. So this is a no-go, absolutely a no-go. Doesn't put pressure, soaks up very little blood, and you don't have a good first aid item with a tampon. Here's the other argument. I don't have the money to buy first aid items, proper first aid items like an Israeli bandage. Then you need to go pick up some pop bottles or something and turn them in, because you need to get Israeli bandages in your kit if you don't already have that. You need to get some Quick Clot in your kit if you don't already have that. These are literally very few dollars at all, and you need to have them if you're going to have a serious kit. This is not a set of serious items for a first aid kit. Yeah, they're cheap, and people will say in a survival situation they're going to MacGyver their way with a bullet hole wound with a tampon. And I'm sorry, but that's just not an educated way of looking at this problem and finding a good solution. Get a good kit. Get training. We'll have a list of people that we know that teach people how to utilize tourniquets, Israeli bandages, Quick Clot, and all the rolled gauzes and everything that goes with it, so that you can get good training all over the country. And we'll have a list of items that you can get as well, so you can find them economically, so that you can get a kit that works for you, that you can afford, and you can take better care of yourself and those that you care about. As always with Nature Reliance School, come on, join in, and let's learn together.